Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere, including my free subscribe YouTube channel, which when you do subscribe, you'll get an alert saying more hope and happiness is on its way every weekday morning at 8 a.m. and then on demand. Yes, everywhere, all the major platforms, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, Spotify, Stitcher, and more, because I need to widen as much as possible my splatter zone for more hope and happiness for you. That's my job, my Happy 8 mission, which I accepted 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. So thank you for joining me. Again, the warning label is, if you're looking for a show that is angry rhetoric or political slamming or any of all that, this is not your show. So if you are instead looking for a way to feel better right now, to be happier in your life, to choose happiness, then this is the show for you. Today's show is a special one. It is honoring the 20-year a tribute for a very momentous event that happened to our country, 9/11 attacks that were horrific. And at the same time, it broke our hearts wide open with more compassion, more love, and certainly the bravery of those who went to try to help and sort through the rubble. And I'm so grateful that I, as a beat reporter, that's one of my other jobs, I get sent by my New York news agency to cover events, and I got to cover a very special 9/11 remembrance, and it was with the Los Angeles Fire Department. It was a panel discussion with members of the LAFD Urban Search and Rescue Team and Federal Emergency Management Agency Task Force 1, who were deployed 20 years ago to the World Trade Center's Ground Zero site following the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Two of the members, LAFD Assistant Chief Steve Hissong and Firefighter Jarvis Willis, were questioned, and I got even a question in myself in the interview for a town hall meeting, which I was blessed to cover. Now, I brought back some clips so that you can hear firsthand from them to play for you. As usual, I love covering things that are right about the world and the story and the experience that these two amazing guys had. You get a little bit of that as well. I followed that with another tribute ceremony at the city of Downey, interviewed the mayor and the fire chief. So I brought that for you as well to enjoy. I really can't add anything to what they say. I think it covers it all.
For me, the reflecting on the 20-year anniversary of 9/11 is a pretty important moment. For me, it reflects the family and how important life is, because it obviously is so vulnerable. And it really is embraced in the last 20 years. I really embraced the family as far as how much we spend the time together and everything else. But more importantly, how we work together as far as a society. 9/11 was a dramatic impact on all of our lives. Every one of us that were aware of that situation back then. There's so many people that were just born since then, but the impact of watching that video on TV of the towers actually collapsing was a memory I'll never forget. And it's something that's etched in my mind every time that we come into an anniversary like this, especially a 20-year anniversary. But it's really important to kind of just embrace it and remember what it meant to all of us and what it means to us as our families too.
For me, one of the biggest things is not missing the opportunity, realizing from that event that at any moment things can go away. And even though that's what we've always learned on our job and our career, but seeing it at that level on that day. So every time I look back, it always reminds me, take that moment, spend time, be nice, give people, be patient, things like that, because you never know what the rest of us are going through, what they're going through, and at any given moment you may have missed an opportunity to help someone. I do feel blessed that we were able to, and I only hope that the closure that we did create for the families did bring them some comfort.
Yeah, likewise, we look at our training that we've done and all of the preparation, and to actually be able to be the fortunate ones to actually be on the boots on the ground at the Trade Center really is truly an honor as we look back and reflect on it. And although we may not have found anybody, but we brought closure to a lot. And for that opportunity, we are truly honored to be part of that.
So at the time, the team was a 66-member team, made up of, for the most part, all LA City firefighters, with the exception of the two doctors. The two doctors are civilians. However, one of the doctors was our fire department medical director, so he was a fire department member. And then we had two members that were two of the canine handlers that were sworn firefighters, but with other agencies outside of LA.
I'm really curious, did any
Oh,
of
and
the
the structural
canines
engineers,
have
sorry.
any type of, you mentioned your colleagues, did any of the dogs have any type of health problems afterwards?
I don't think.
Yeah,
was
actually
it
they
Doris's
did.
dog?
Doris's dog had some health issues afterwards because of obviously the dust that was still
Tux.
in the air, and the canines that were still searching all those areas. They did get affected by it, and unfortunately, most of them have passed since then. And I know one of them specifically was directly related because of the World Trade Center.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Marissa, iHeartRadio and NBC News, KCAA. And I just wanted to say thank you for what you did there. I know you had to, but it still, breaks my heart open just remembering. And also, you've really brought the positive out. So, is there a part of you that hits an angry nerve when you remember? And then the second part is the families or people that you have met who lost someone. What's the best way to comfort them?
I don't necessarily have anger. I just know that I feel vulnerable that what happened to the Trade Center could still happen to us in some other way or shape or form. So I don't have anger towards it. I feel that I want to always know and be aware of our situation, of how things are happening. As far as the families, we really, again, want to convey how much support they have as a nation, because the reason that we tell these stories are to share our experiences that were true to us, but more importantly to the families that lost their family members there, that we came together, and no matter where anybody was, it was the only thing that we thought about during that time period. And that part of it was the support that we were all working together to accomplish a single goal, and that was to bring everybody together as a nation.
Good morning, this is Dr. Marissa reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah, and as you know, I cover things that are good about our community, good about people, good about the world. And today is a special day as we are commemorating, actually all week, something that happened that wasn't great, but this is how we're healing. And I have here someone who's going to be officiating a great ceremony here in the city of Downey. Could you introduce yourself and tell me why you're here?
My name is Dan Herlock. I'm the fire chief for the city of Downey, and we're here today to honor the lives lost due to the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001.
And how does that hit you in your heart?
It hits very heavy, close to home. a lot of first responders died that day responding to the Trade Center towers, the World Trade Center, and in other locations as well. So it hits heavy.
Yeah. And this is something the city of Downey wanted to do. Was there a personal link? Did we lose people here?
We don't have any firefighters that are associated with family members that were lost on 9/11. Personally, I do have some relatives who had coworkers that were working in the Trade Center towers who died that day.
Yeah. I just heard a statistic this morning. How many firefighters died because of 9/11? It was in the hundreds, right?
Yes, there were 71 law enforcement officers and 343 firefighters who passed away.
Wow. So, do you have a message for people who are still suffering with pain around this time? Is there any words of encouragement?
My advice would be don't suffer in silence. Talk about it. Seek help. Get those feelings out and express those feelings. Don't bottle it up inside. That will only lead to worse, more devastating emotions and depression.
Yeah. Good advice. I just, when tragedy happens, it's not wonderful. Nobody wants tragedy to happen. But the best thing is it breaks our hearts open wide for more compassion, more care. And I have to say, I love the way that our country responded in love for law enforcement, for firefighters, because of the pandemic, for healthcare responders, frontline. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, that makes me feel very grateful. It's an honor to serve our communities in the capacity that we're able to serve. Responding to help people in need. It's a calling, and we take it on willingly.
Beautiful. And I don't give this to all my guests, but I'd like to present you with Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award for the work that you do on behalf of all the firefighters.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live, reminding you, find the good, choose happiness, look for what's working, because it'll make you feel better and the world feel better. Peace in. Oh, this is something I just taught the mayor. Can you do this? Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. It's a good one. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So that'll be on. Good morning. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah, and I'm here again covering what's right with the world, what's right with community, what's right with politicians. And I have two mayors here. I'd like them to introduce themselves and tell us what wonderful thing we just went through as a ceremony here in the city of Downey.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Claudia Frometta. I am the current mayor for the city of Downey. And joining me this morning is...
My name is Blanca Pacheco. I am the current mayor pro tem, a former mayor here in the city of Downey.
Yes, and what we just did is we held a brief ceremony to commemorate, to remember the lives lost, nearly 3,000 lives lost in the terrorist attacks of September 11th. It's hard to believe it is now 20 years since that fateful day, the worst attack in America on American soil.
I love the way that you use this day also to thank your city and all the people that serve. That was kudos to you. How does it feel when we remember this? How are you feeling? Because you said some very inspiring words in your speech. So what will help us remember this in the best possible way?
Well, I think it's important for our country, for our community, and our children to never forget. We never forget. We never want to forget the lives, nearly 3,000 lives that were lost due to terrorist attacks in America. We want to also honor the bravery of our first responders, our fire and police and ordinary citizens that rushed to those twin towers to respond and try to save lives. And I think it's so important to honor our first responders, our police and fire. They are men and women in uniform that answer to the call of duty, and they really keep our community safe. Downey is blessed to have its own fire and police department, and we want to honor them as well and thank them for their service.
This has impacted me and the community. It's been 20 years since that tragic event, and all of us will always remember where we were when that incident happened. For me, I was going to law school. I remember waking up and I remember seeing the images, and it's images that will always be in my mind, and they are forever engraved. And so it's important to always remember this tragic event, to teach our children about this tragic event, but most importantly, to honor and respect our first responders, both our fire department and our police department. It's good to thank them, not just today, but every day, for everything that they do in our communities, day in and day out.
And if I may add one more thing, I think it's important. We're living such divisive times, Doctor, and I think it's so important to teach our children love of country. And again, the heroism and the patriotism, what brought this country together like we have never seen before in the aftermath of those attacks. And again, regardless of political affiliation, we need to remember that we are one nation under God, indivisible. And we need to keep that message, and we need to continue to have that memory for generations to come.
Absolutely. Very well said. I end all my shows with this little thing that I just taught the mayor of Culver City, and Eric Garcetti wanted to learn it. So if you wouldn't mind, it says, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live in the city of Downey. Powerful, powerful, powerful words. So grateful that I got to hear from them firsthand. Don't go away. When we come back, a minute of silence here on this show to remember. When I return on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, the station that leaves no listener behind. And I also would love it if we spent the minute that the fire chief introduces after the bells, a minute of silence here on this show as well, to remember and to send that breath of peace and comfort to any and all who have been impacted by the attacks on 9/11. And during that minute of silence, I will be showing the images that were so kindly shared by Bubba, the firefighter, one of the ones that was there on ground zero in the cleanup. They are disturbing and poignant and help us remember with a breath of peace and comfort again to all who were impacted.
13 were civilians, 55 were military personnel at the Pentagon, all who arrived at work not knowing that that would be their last day. Also, there were 414 first responders, which included 71 law enforcement officers, 343 firefighters, who also arrived at work not knowing it would be their last day. But they bravely responded to the attacks at the Pentagon, the airplane that went down in Pennsylvania, and the World Trade Center towers, putting their safety at risk as part of their duty. They paid the ultimate price, giving their lives serving the community. I know that given the same circumstances, the men and women of the Downey Police Department and the Downey Fire Department would respond in the same way, putting their safety at risk, serving their community. It's that spirit of bravery and sacrifice that we gather today and honor those who gave all that day with this bell ceremony today.
Thank you for joining me in that minute. And I hope you enjoyed that special tribute on my show for 9/11 as we honor and send out a deep breath of peace and comfort to any and all who have been impacted by the tragedy. And at the same time, remembering that life is a gift. And no matter what tragedy has happened, it breaks our hearts open so that we can love and show compassion and kindness and come together, as the chief said, as a nation with human kindness. We'll be right back, and I couldn't think of a better spotlight interview than that with my big brother some years ago, but the topic is very pertinent right now as we are remembering, and that is it possible to still have world peace? Is it possible to still have world peace? We get to enjoy that spotlight interview here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. KCAAradio.com, as well as my YouTube channel, where you can find all of my past 531 shows over a 489 consecutive week span. Yes, 9 years on the air with this. Just one of my favorite things to do is to talk about how to be happy. So thank you for joining me. And without further ado, we're going to go to our spotlight interview, because during these times, especially when we remember things that were done to us and all the horrible things, I asked my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, who's the one, by the way, who introduced me to Oprah as the Asian Oprah, so you can blame him. Is world peace possible? And here's what he said, along with the fact that if you are watching this on the YouTube channel, you get to see a beautiful staff interpreter, Sharon Pierre-Louis, who helps my shows fall in the category of radio for our deaf community. So I'm hoping that if you're watching this and you're enjoying it and you do know someone who can read American Sign Language, that you would share this with them. All right, enjoy.
Dr. Beckwith is a living testament to building spiritual community. In 1986, he founded the Agape International Spiritual Center, where I get my positive roots watered. He and other peacemakers and spiritual leaders have worked towards peace on the planet, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Dr. Ariyanti of Sri Lanka, and Arun Gandhi, grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. He's the co-founder and current president of the Association for Global Thought, an organization dedicated to planetary healing and transformation. Dr. Beckwith is the originator of the life visioning process, which he teaches throughout the country, along with meditation, scientific prayer, and spiritual beliefs of selfless service. His books include Inspirations of the Heart, 40-Day Mind Fast Soul Feast, and a Manifesto of Peace, and my favorite, Spiritual Liberation. In 2003, he was written into the Congressional Record of the 107th Congress and is the recipient of the 2004 Africa Peace Award, the Howard Thurman Stained Glass Window Award by Morehouse College, and the Humanitarian Award of the National Conference for Compassion and Justice. I know him as my big brother because he has taught me how to see myself as a precious child of the universe, how to forgive everything and everyone, and how to live a life worth living by being a beneficial presence on the planet. Please welcome to the studio, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. Hello, big brother.
Hello, sis. How are you?
I am so happy and grateful to have you on again. I know how fortunate I am because your schedule is so busy, and I know there's quite a few people who say, how do you get him on your show? And I've been asking for 3 or 4 years, but I'm not going to rub it in. I'm just being grateful and very happy.
Well, it's my joy to be with you, as you've done over 111 and counting, and it's my joy to be with you in that number that we can inspire individuals to be that beneficial presence and that download of good on the planet. Yes. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you very much. So the topic, and you speak to everything well, but I wanted us to focus on peace only because this was the official day celebration. It has the danger of just being swept away as, okay, that day's over until next year, and especially with what's going on the planet right now and the U.S. looking like we're going back to war when I thought we were finally getting to a place, bringing people back from the war in the Middle East. Am I being naive? Am I smoking something to think that world peace is even possible? Is it?
No, I don't think so. There's something called conscious naivete, and that the people who've made a mighty difference on the planet had what I call a conscious naivete, and that is they knew what they were seeking to do on the planet, whether it's to end hunger or to bring about world peace or to clean up the environment, whatever the issue that systemic to us seems to be. They have to carry a kind of a naivete that it is possible,
right,
and to be consciously aware, because the other alternative is resignation. And so you can either be consciously naive that you can do something, or you can resign, have a level of resignation that you can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And it's not, you don't have to be courageous to go into resignation. You don't have to, there's no sense of compassion or love if you just resign yourself to facts as they are. Mm-hmm. Anybody can just resign themselves and try to be anti-board until you die. But it is individuals who actually know that what they're facing is daunting, mm-hmm, and work at it anyway, that have made a significant difference on the planet throughout history, whether it's been in the area of architecture, whether it's been the area of healing, medicine, education, business. You find the innovators of all of these domains were people who at times were called naive, or they were out of their mind, or they were operating in some paradigm that most people hadn't caught up to yet. So it's good that you're naive. And then we have to be aware that when we talk about peace, we have to define what peace is. And peace is, as I describe it, it is the dynamic of harmonizing good. So it's a quality that's within us. And oftentimes people have a tendency to think that peace is the absence of conflict or the absence of negativity, but that's not really peace. Peace is when a certain quality is evident. For instance, you can walk into a room and there might be two people there who aren't arguing, they're not fighting, but you can pick up in the energy that there's not peace there, that they're at odds with each other, that they don't like each other, that there's something going on, even though they may not be fighting. And so peace would not be evident in that consciousness, even though there's no conflict. But you can also walk into a room and you can see two people there who are disagreeing on a particular point, but the environment is full of peace because they're mature enough to be able to speak with individuals that don't necessarily agree with them, but still have within their consciousness the activation of peace or of love, patience, kindness, and compassion. So when we speak of peace, we're talking about a quality that is as real as love, harmony, beauty, power. And so you've had people on your program that speak to the consciousness of inner peace. They speak to the consciousness of getting to inner peace through forgiveness and things of this particular nature. So when we talk about world peace, now we're talking about a consciousness of individuals who are no longer suppressing peace, because peace is everywhere, just like the presence of God is, except where it's being suppressed by a limited paradigm or a limited point of view. So if a person is living in a very myopic point of view, they're living mainly in their animalistic awareness, the reptilian brain, then they're suppressing peace. It's there, but they're suppressing it. It's just like, you went surfing the other day. And you were on that sweet ocean. Now, the water's wet, the ocean is there, and you didn't have to pray for the water to be wet. You didn't have to pray to God to let the water be wet for waves to come, But there are individuals who've never gotten in the water who would say, oh my God, there's no water, I can't get wet, Well, they're suppressing their experience by not getting into the water. So water's there. So the same way, peace is here. But we have to be mature enough, consciously naive enough to stop suppressing it. So it becomes the activity of our awareness.
So when people say, the traditional vision of peace is the monk sitting under the Bodhi tree and just sitting there and doing nothing. So what I heard you say, peace is a quality, it's an action almost. The dynamic, harmonizing good, that's an action. It's dynamic. It's a dynamic of the dynamic of harmonizing good. That's within us. So you can be at peace sitting under the Bodhi tree. You could be at peace in traffic. You can be at peace washing dishes. You can be at peace speaking to a so-called adversary. Let's go there. So how does someone who vastly and just ultimately disagrees about everything, let's say the best example is the Jews and the Palestinians. There's nothing in common, or that there can be that fundamental meeting point. How do they come to peace? How is that possible?
Well, first of all, they agree on most things. They agree. They come from the same root religiously. And the dietary situations are the same. They agree that they want peace for their families and want protection and education for their families and kids. They agree on most things. What the issue is land, and the amends that need to take place regarding of the uprooting of certain people, Palestinians, and the moving forward that Israel is not going anywhere. So there needs to be. So if you take when you go over there, and I meet people who are there all the time, when you talk to not the governments, that's a different awareness than the people.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to a lot of the people, they have a lot of love and relationships with Jews have them with Palestinians have it with Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And when you speak from a government, you're speaking from an entrenched, myopic, small, selfish consciousness run by politicians.
Mm-hmm.
When you speak of the people want peace. And but when governments get in the way of that, now you're speaking about a whole blockage of what's trying to emerge at that space. So you can't believe what the corporate media would give you in terms of their being at odds. Of course, there are extremists on both sides.
Right.
But when you meet in the middle, where most of the people live, you're not going to find a lot of haters.
Uh-huh.
You're going to find a lot of people who are saying there's a way out of this.
Right.
So it begins with forgiveness, because you've been speaking about forgiveness.
Yep.
So if you got a number of Palestinians and put them in a circle, and they talk to each other of their heartbreaks, and the death, and the kids being killed in the Gaza, and they were surrounded by Jews, okay, and they just heard without interrupting what the Palestinians were feeling, and then you reverse that, and you put the Jews in the center. And you surrounded them by Palestinians, and Palestinians got to hear of the heartbreak of the Jewish people, their fear for the death of their kids and their nation, etc. Then what would be birthed, and without interruption, and you feel the tears and the sadness moving through the Palestinians, the tears and the sadness moving through those Israelis. What would be birthed ultimately would be being able to see something from another person's point of view, which is the birth of compassion. With the birth of compassion, there's understanding. When there's understanding, dialogue emerges. When dialogue emerges, then a way out of no way emerges. But when you have the extremist, the governments, politically speaking to their issue only, and this happens in every country. You don't have to look at Palestine and Israel. You can look at any country.
Right. Especially
every country always demonizes the so-called enemy, and their country is 100% always right, which is an impossibility.
Right.
When you deal with governments and the the propaganda that comes from governments, whatever government is speaking, they're 100% right, and the other individuals are 100% wrong. They're demonized. They're evil. They're negative. So therefore, the people are hypnotized into a pseudo-patriotic viewpoint, and therefore that limited perception hinders the peace that's there.
Yeah.
So it begins with education. It begins with, as our Native American brothers would say, it begins with walking a mile in the moccasins of the other.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I'm reminded, you mentioned media, and I don't want to blame the media, because we also, what we watch, what we want to watch gets continued to be put in front of us. But I was at the mosque the other day, another celebration of peace that we had, that we co-sponsored, Reverend Wilkins, and I went there, and it was really interesting. Marianne Williamson spoke there. She's been on my show, and it was very interesting. She raised, her own, you watch the beheadings, right? And so then you want to go to war. You hear of the Hitler, and you hear of atrocity, and you want to go to war. And the thing we don't question sometimes is, what is the truth here? Is it really what is being put in front of us? And one Sunday you said a brilliant thing. I mean, you say brilliant things a lot. I'm biased. But the one thing you said was that media has become weapons of mass distraction.
Yes.
And so when people tell me, well, what do you want to do? I say, I want a broadcasting company that presents balance, that presents the good news and the bad news, or that all angles of the truth, because it isn't black and white. So if you are tuning in to any kind of news that is firing you up to want you to fight and to be at war, is to step back and go, is that really the truth?
Right.
Of the million things that could be reported right now, of the million things, and that's why I love technology and Facebook and social media. I go on hunts to find the good stuff. I go on hunts to find the guy who's now teaching Palestinian and Israeli children how to dance together.
Yes.
I mean, that doesn't get on the news, right?
No.
Well, the beheadings get on the news, or the atrocities get on the news.
You have 2 or 3 beheadings, and then you have hundreds of people singing and dancing together, hundreds of people having celebration together, hundreds of people doing schools together,
Right.
hundreds of people doing. But as you indicated, those are not on the front page of the newspaper, nor are they leading. They're not the leading news reports on our media. What leads is what bleeds, as we used to say back in the old days.
Yes.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
And that's what fires up people into fear and doubt and worry. And once a person is in fear, they can be controlled a lot easier.
So how can we make a difference if governments and the media are fueling a path towards war and towards, I woke up with this term called planet patriotism. We will always be at war if our country is the best country and everybody else can go to hell in a handbasket, right?
Absolutely.
So,
I used to say a long time ago that whether you're America or Russia, whatever, is not, you don't want to be number one. You want to rise up and be one with the one. And right now, the myopic point of view is always saying we're number one, and again, it's a pseudo patriotism, and but it's not real,
right?
And so every major movement in society has come from small groups of people who are able to articulate the truth. Can you still see me, by the way?
Yep. Jarvis says yeah.
All right. I just wanted to make sure because my screen just went out. So
it did? Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Small groups of people who became impervious to the weapons of mass distraction, became impervious to malicious hypnotism, and were able to, on a regular basis, speak to vision and possibility and speak to the next stage of our evolution.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on now. When you were speaking about Facebook and the internet and things of that particular nature, you find a lot of people communicating with people around the world now.
Yes. I have
Years
listeners.
ago, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, you would think that the guy over in another country was someone bad. Now people are talking to each other and discovering that we all agree that we want peace. We want safety. We want our children to grow up free and safe, to have a good education, to have good nutrition. We want air we can breathe. You know, we agree on more things than we disagree on.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
And that's what needs to lead in our real news.
Yeah.
That we agree. Now, if everyone agrees, how are we going to take the next step? Now, if you begin to ask those type of questions, what are the next steps to take? Then the mind will begin to be open to the next steps. But if we're stuck in I hate you,
right,
and you're the most evil person on the planet, we can't even get to the empowering questions.
True.
And then the only people that are making money are those that are making weapons and selling them on the black market and creating conditions for war and hate, so that the weapons that are created and we had as citizens, even in the United States, we have to wake up. Because we fund a lot of that, we fund a lot of the weapons that are made, and then when they become semi-obsolete, they're sold to people around the world. And I was looking on the news the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and they were speaking about ISIS. They were speaking about these different terrorist groups, and when you look really close on the news, you could see that some of these people were driving Fords, and they had weapons that were made in the United States.
Right.
And they didn't plunder the Pentagon and steal this stuff. They had to get it from somewhere.
Exactly.
And so,
yeah,
we have to be very vigilant.
I never realized that war really, above everything else, is a business.
Oh my God.
And prison is a business.
Billions of dollars.
Right.
Somebody's making billions of dollars off of death and destruction and hate.
And the worst common denominator of humanity.
Yes.
So that's where we have to stop going. So I don't watch TV.
We have to be aware of that.
Right. Not naive.
The conscious people now have to begin to create the other market so that peace is sexy and profitable.
Yes.
You see
Yes.
that the green movement is sexy and profitable. The ecological movement is sexy and profitable.
Yeah.
You're seeing the beginning of the emergence of that with solar panels and things of that particular nature.
Organic
But
food.
That's a growing market.
Yeah.
That and when the market of green and the market of the ecology and the market of real education and real medicine, which is emerging,
Yes.
starts to outstrip, which is beginning now. I mean, most people don't realize that more people went to holistic medicine over the last few years than traditional medicine. That's not on the front page, however.
Right. Interesting.
So there are emerging peaceful markets that give us an indication that we're in the middle of a great transformation.
I absolutely agree.
You
And
know,
I'm so glad about that.
Yeah, and the corporate news is not a news of vision. It's a news of basically describing an old paradigm and an old decadent way of life, but broadcasting with music and all manner of things. People think that this is normal. This is going to happen for forever. And what you're doing, you are on the edge of the emerging paradigm, describing what it could possibly look like. That's real news. Everything else is the old.
Well, that's the only reason why my numbers have exploded. It's not me. It's the message. And the message is one of hope and happiness. And that's what we're supposed to be in. Life is supposed to be that good feeling. Life is supposed to be finding out what your unique talent, gift, and ability is and discovering and then honing it and then leaving the planet a better place than when you found it.
Yes.
And all of this I got from guess who?
That's our message every single week, one way, shape, form, or another.
That's right. And it's such a, and people, even when people say, how are you? And I've been doing this ever since I got to Agape, is just saying happy. And people go, oh, that's good. What are you happy about? And it's like, no, it's just a choice.
It's just a choice.
It is just a choice. I choose to see the best because, frankly, when I see the worst, it doesn't make me feel good. And I am about feeling good, naturally and holistically.
It doesn't give you a lot of options. It reminds me of that quote from John Lennon where he said that he was giving an assignment in school. And the assignment was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so he wrote the word happy. And the teacher said, you don't understand the assignment. And he said, you don't understand me.
Great. That is great. Absolutely great. Absolutely great. So, okay, so we're going to go to break. And when we get back from break, I would like you to give as much specific direction to anyone listening, and there's a lot of people listening, on what they can do. Be the government is as it is. Be the news is as it is. On a personal level, what can people do and say to make a difference to world peace? And we're going to be right back. If you just tuned in, I'm talking to the amazing Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith on my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa. We'll be right back in 2 and 2.
Do you want to be a part of a holistic solution to our broken jail system? The Emerging Leaders Academy is helping reduce the California statistic where 3 out of 4 people return to prison within their first year out. In partnership with the LA County Sheriff's Department, LA Urban League, Goodwill, Long Beach PD, and the Agape International Spiritual Center, ELA, a nonprofit program, is a transformational path to opportunities with responsibility and a recognition of the unique role we all have in this thing called life. If you would like to be a partner in someone's inside-out transformation with career development, entrepreneurship, therapeutic literacy, financial education, and hope to those who think they have no alternative than to return to jail, then be the change you want to see and become an ELA partner. Visit emergingleaders360.org today. Celebrate life on the beach and learn to surf with the M&M Surfing School. Whether it's on your bucket list or not, it's time to learn how to ride the waves. M&M provides you with everything you need. Safety first, affordable rates, equipment from ages 5 to 105, and expert instruction for all levels. Call 714-846-6666 7873. That's 714, the letter U, go surf. And come to Seal Beach and start your life all over again with M&M. Register now at www.surfingschool.com.
And we're back, and you are listening to our wrapping up with a dynamic bow episode on world peace. And we have the beautiful Sharon Pierre-Louis here making this an episode for our radio, for our deaf community. Thank you, Sharon. And on Skype, we have the awesome and amazing big brother of mine, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who is the founder of Agape International Spiritual Center, the author of Spiritual Liberation, and the originator of the life visioning process. Welcome back.
Oh, it is my joy, and I'm happy always to be with you. You're doing great work.
Thank you. So, okay, so I'm going to do this as a, as an organizational psychologist. I got to break it down a little bit. So, tell me, so there's different levels we can get to world peace. There's an individual level, there's a community level, there's a country level, there's a government level, a global citizen or planet patriotism level. So speak to each one of those so that people can actually take action after this show.
Right. Well, starting with the individual level, an individual must have an ever-increasing awareness of the peace that is not based on conditions or circumstances. The average person that has a limited perception loses their peace, their joy, their happiness when an external condition shifts. If it's not going to their liking, they lose their peace. If it's going to their liking, they have a greater peace. And that's not real peace. That's kind of a counterfeit peace, counterfeit happiness. It's based on conditions.
Okay.
And so
can I break that down as an example?
Yes.
I hear people say, I'll be happy when, or I'll be at peace when I find my soulmate, or I have that fancy car, or I have my house on the beach.
Yes.
Although I do want my house on the beach.
It doesn't mean you don't want those things or prefer to have those things, but there is a peace, as is stated spiritually, that passes human understanding. And I'm telling you, that peace is real.
Yes.
But it doesn't come through mentalizing or being clever or manipulation. It comes through actually sitting down and having a moment every single day of connecting with the universal presence, connecting with the truth of your being, until that inner dimension becomes as real as the seeming external reality. Now, oftentimes people have discovered this peace in the midst of war. They've discovered this peace in the midst of being jailed. You look at Nelson Mandela, who was jailed 27 years. You look at Malcolm X, Dr. King, in and out of jail. You look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama, persecuted by the government of the Chinese. And I always separate the government from the people.
Yes.
You look at many people. You look at Mother Teresa in the midst of tremendous hunger and agony, finding a peace within her. So you can have peace in the middle of something that is extremely negative and
abuse, sexual abuse,
abandonment, hate, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
So that is a level of spiritual maturity that either happens through pain or through insight. In other words, somebody gets in so much pain that they realize they have to go to another place within themselves, or they have a tremendous insight about reality and suddenly are blessed with a level of peace, and they realize that peace is not based on condition. So that's what spiritual practice is all about. I'm not speaking of religion. I'm not speaking about joining a religion. I'm speaking about having a level of spiritual practice where you become still, you meditate, you affirm, you do the life visioning process, you do some studying, you do something in which you're no longer dimensionally challenged. That is, you're not just stuck in 3D. You begin to be aware that there are many dimensions to your being, and there is a dimension within you that has a peace, a love, and a joy, and a wisdom, and a harmony begging to release itself. So everyone has to be personally responsible for that kind of peace.
And it's outside. I want to just highlight something you just said around, this isn't religion. This is not, we're not trying to make you drink the Kool-Aid. No. It's drinking lemonade. Waking up, you can drink lemonade, make the lemonade out of the lemons. But I love the fact that this is why I love Agape, is that, you don't have to, love, joy, and peace are not just the property of church or
Right.
the property of religion, is that it is the spiritual birthright of every single living being on the planet. So with that practice that I learned from you, I have my own relationship. I don't have to get to God through church. I don't have to get to God through a specific religion. I don't even have to get to God through you. I have my own relationship that I value and I foster and I grow every morning at the beach, because and it's kind of like, my God went from an needs anger management classes, I got that from you, or the Santa Claus that gives me something that I don't want in the future anyways,
Right.
to the newest thing I've got is this energy grid. I call him my UPS man, my universal power source, and he delivers every morning that I pray and meditate. And I take that plug out of my butt,
Yeah.
and I Jarvis is laughing, and I plug it into this energy grid. That's what meditation is to me. I get to plug in and tap into, turn on, and then the inspiration comes. That's how this show came about.
Yes.
This was not. I had no freaking idea. I wanted.
And you're
to
just
radio.
beginning.
Yeah. You keep telling me. So anyway, sorry, I had to jump in there with the individual.
No, that's absolutely true. It's not about it's not about being religious, even though the word religion means to bind oneself back to the source. But it's not about joining a religion. It's about joining yourself.
Yes.
And your real self, capital S self, not selfish and greedy, but the real self that's independent of time, space, who you really are. Now, so the individuals who are activists in the world oftentimes get burnt out because they don't have that inner peace. They're waiting for the world to change before they have peace. So there's a level of anger and frustration about all the negative things going on the planet.
Right.
And there's a tremendous amount of chaos within their system that takes a toll on the mental body and the emotional body and even the physical body. So, when you hear, for instance, the cadence and the vibration of a Dr. King speaking about all brothers and sisters being one in the midst of a time of tremendous racism and bigotry, he had tapped into that love and that peace, even while that wasn't necessarily a fact in the world. And so all of us have to find our way.
Right.
To tap into that kind of vision and that kind of spiritual sustenance, even though we're working for peace or love or ecology or whatever the case may be.
Right.
We have to have that kind of peace. So peace isn't the end goal. Peace is in the journey with every step we take. You see.
I like that.
It's very, very important because what happens is if efficiency, if you have a level of efficiency and effectiveness without the peace, you become fascist, even in your right point of view.
Right. You're still fighting.
You're still fighting. And
there's no peace when you're fighting.
You see people within the peace movement fighting each other because, everybody thinks that their particular facet is more important than the other person's facet.
Yes.
We have to have higher wages. No, we have to, the planet has to be saved. No, we have to stop factory farming. No, we have to stop the prison industrial system. No, we have to stop war. No, we have to stop, well, it's all of it is systemic. And you find your particular place where you gravitate.
Yeah.
And realize it's connected at the root to all of the particular issues.
Every time someone says to me, "Why are you, promoting and helping people in Africa or in China? Why, when we have starving kids at home in America?" And I go, "Why can't we do all of it?
Right.
Why do we have to choose, and why do we have to argue about which one's more important? It's all important."
Right.
Okay. Sorry. Next, community level.
Community level is very important, and that is, we have to find in our community where we're willing to share our gifts. Everyone has gifts and talents, either be discovered, cultivated, and activated, and ultimately expressed. And so we find in our own neighborhood and in our own community where we can share those gifts. Sometimes it's with the neighborhood watch or the neighborhood group that meets together. Sometimes it's finding your place of being a volunteer somewhere in your particular area, in which you're giving your gift and you're bringing hope and you're bringing a joy and you're bringing great possibility to individuals that are less fortunate than you are. But I think people over the years have gotten a little myopic and have gotten very clannish and take care of their own,
right?
But have forgotten that their neighbor and the people around them are very, very important.
Yeah.
And so we become afraid of each other because of the highlighting of stalkers and
Right.
people who are demented on our news items, that we forget that most people that are walking down your neighborhood around your block are not trying to break into your house and kill you.
True.
See?
True.
But
Right.
we have that protection that's overlays,
Yes.
like we're ramped up.
Yeah.
You see.
Yep.
And just as the police officers, are frightened so much that they'll shoot and ask questions later. You see, in many cases. And so we're so ramped up that we have to learn now to see. I remember a number of years ago, my wife Ricky, we'd come back from being with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and working with a lot of people outside the country, and someone asked His Holiness, how do we bring about world peace or have peace? And he said, make sure you go out and you make friends. Just very simple, make friends, 2 words, make friends.
Right.
And so she took that to heart, and there was a lady across the street. For some reason, at the beginning of the time when we moved there was some anxiety, there was some word spoken, there was just something that, who knows what it was.
Right.
But there was always this person across the street that, didn't like us or didn't like Ricky or whatever,
Right.
And Ricky came back, went across the street, knocked at the woman's door and says, I don't know what happened when I first moved here, but we need to just get past it. We're each other's neighbor. Let's be friends, And the lady just smiled and embraced it, and it was just gone. Whatever it was dissolved. And now there's one more person on the neighborhood that's friendly, that looks out for you. We look out for her. There's a vibration of taking care of.
Right. And that is definitely missing.
Right. So people just, instead of peeking out their windows and looking at what their neighbors are doing, walk across the street and say, hey, neighbor, we live right across the street. What's your name?
Right. Yeah. Great. Next level, country level.
The country is, similar to community. The country is an expression of different states of consciousness. And so with the country, you have your local and your national political scene. So one, you don't opt out of that. You participate in those particular scenes, but you participate in it without attachment, without hate of the so-called other side. So you definitely participate in your local and your national elections. You get into a great discovery as to who most represents your particular point of view, that point of view that's going to bring about a greater ecological concern, a greater sense of oneness on the planet, and you support that. You see, and then once you do that, it has to be without attachment, because if you get too attached to it, you end up creating a polarity. You end up being against things more than you're for things, and that creates a lot of trouble. And so once you begin to operate on that level, and then you have to ask, beyond that system, again, like the community, what gift can I give to my country? What am I broadcasting every single day? And people don't fail to realize that small groups of people around the world doing things with excellence makes an impact on the world. You take one of your sponsors and dear friend of ours, the Emerging Leaders.
He wanted to sponsor this show.
Small. Sergeant Clyde Terry got tired of the system of minorities being arrested at a higher rate, incarcerated at a higher rate, coming back out of jail, learning nothing in there, going back in. So he did what he could do. He started, Emerging Leaders, brought people together that supported that vision. And now he has reduced the recidivism rate of individuals coming out of prison, finding jobs, but even more than just finding a job, they find a new mental attitude. He asked what he could do. And he's affecting the society in ways that many people don't even know about. All of us has something. It doesn't mean we all have to go out and start Emerging Leaders. Doesn't mean we all have to go out and start Agape. Doesn't mean we all have to go on Universal Broadcasting Network and be Marissa Pay. But there is something that we're asked to do other than sit around and eat,
watch Netflix,
watch television.
Yes, play Candy Crush,
be interviewed and being entertained. We're not here on this planet just to be entertained.
That's true.
That's that's a small part of it. It's not, entertainment is sweet. I'm not putting it down. It's nice to be entertained, but that's not supposed to be the biggest part of our life.
Exactly.
The bigger part of our life is to be giving our gift.
Yeah.
And to sharing who we are. And then we have levels of entertainment. We go see a movie. We go to a play. We go and see a nice concert. We go to a basketball game. That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But you have people, their entire life is based on fast food and entertainment, which both are very filled with empty calories that cause the condition for ignorance and disease.
Yes.
And we want to wake people up from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to the government one too, as I meet so many people who just shake their heads, government's horrible, blah, blah, blah. And then I say, do you vote? And they go, no, because there's nobody I want to vote for.
Right.
And it's like, well, then how are we ever going to change? So I'm going to ask my listeners to, go do the research first. Which one of the candidates supports peace? Which ones support healing the planet in ways? Go to the town halls and ask them those difficult questions and then vote, because we have a government. We have the ability to affect that. We're not asking everybody to run for government, although that is another, Marianne, she did it because it is important to do it. So there's so many ways in which we are not hopeless. We are not helpless.
No.
Now,
even though right now our particular democracy has been hijacked by big money, when the Supreme Court made that big mistake and allowed, unending donations to come from the corporate sector.
Yeah.
And so it does seem ominous that the small person can't make a difference. And that's in the process of being overturned now, because the consciousness of the people have spoken. So it's a matter of time before that particular ill law is struck down.
Right.
But when you do participate, you are seeding something in what Pierre de Chardin called the noosphere, the mental atmosphere of the planet. You are seeding it with possibility. And great changes happen when the mental seeding of something becomes so full that, as Victor Hugo indicates, you can't stop something, you can't stop an idea whose time has come.
Yes.
And so when you participate, even if it seems ominous at times, there comes a moment where that last little drip creates the overflow of the dam.
Right, right.
So we invite people, even though it seems quite difficult, that democracy seems to be quite gone based on the money interest in it, and the way that they gerrymander and change voting districts and keep people from voting. I mean, we know all of that is there.
Right.
However, you participate anyway, because when the noosphere is full to overflowing with a new idea, there's a way that's made out of that. People said the Berlin Wall would never come down.
Right.
It came down.
Right.
They say apartheid would never end. Apartheid dissolved. I mean, so there are intractable things that we're looking at in terms of our war industry and our prison industry that seems so intractable, but it one day will come down.
Right. Right.
If people do not give up.
Right. And we don't have to wait for top-down change. We don't have to wait for bottom-up change. We can do the change. I call it strategic termite model of change.
Yes.
If you have groups of people who are chewing away all the BS, the belief systems that don't work,
right,
it will topple and create that.
There's never been a top-down change. Very rarely, unless the person is very brilliant in an organization. It's generally in society, it's always been from the bottom and the middle. Right. And working through the system, and then small groups of people being able to articulate a new vision.
Right.
And then the people at the top hear it and jump in front of it.
Exactly. Now, speaking of the top, because I know that our president actually listens to you on his iPod.
Does he?
Yes, he does. So
you know that for sure.
Well, I heard that. I heard that like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah,
when
I heard that
first
too.
came. Okay,
I got a letter. I was either from him or his wife that thanked me for the vision process.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to send this to him. What would you like to say to him right now? What can he do with the time that he has left specifically to make a mark and to make a difference in world peace? What would you, if you were Barack Obama's consultant and you have 5 minutes right now, what
Lord
would you
have
tell
mercy.
him to do?
Well,
And you
Barack
have his ear. You
Barack
have his-
Obama, first of all, is very brilliant and knows the systemic issues that he's dealing with. I can remember being with him when he was running for president, having a private meeting with him and 4 other ministers, and then being in a group of people where there were about 100 of us in the backyard. And he knows things.
Yes.
And so I remember at one point he said, he was going to be the first person to go to the Middle East and apologize for our government overthrowing democratically elected officials, thus fomenting the terrorism we're now experiencing. So for him to be able to say that 9 years ago gave me an indication that he knows there's certain intractable system set in place.
Right.
That he's seeking to work on his own behalf. Now, as one man, as a president, there's very little he can do. You have to have a population behind him.
Right.
So what he needs to do is continue to cast a vision of possibility and not get caught up merely in the ISIS situation of the latest group of terrorists that are coming down and beheading 3 people. And he has to
See
step
beyond
up
that.
and be that global citizen that he really is.
Right.
And establish where we need to go as a population and then bring that to focus. He has to do a couple other things. Before he leaves, he has to pardon all of those people in jail that were sentenced to life prisons for having a marijuana cigarette in Texas and things like that, thus overcrowding our prison systems with individuals who were doing something legal at the time, but was very silly to be sent to jail for 25 years for having a little bit of marijuana. They weren't selling it, they were just smoking it. He needs to, finally, as a constitutional lawyer, he needs to really continue to fight to make sure that corporations are not people, not seen as people, but they're seen as corporations. And they don't have any more influence than the average person.
Right.
As a constitutional lawyer, he needs to look at the Mamiya case again because there's so many holes in that. But his role carrying the bully pulpit is really to cast vision, because the president, in and of itself, unless he has a mandate from the populace, can't do that much.
Right.
Right. John F. Kennedy said that he would like to take on the Pentagon and reduce its power, but he would need both terms plus more to even make a dent in it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Barack Obama needs to cast vision.
Yeah.
He needs to say what the issues are, the intractable issues, and then invite the people to step up.
Yes. Yes.
To walk in that direction.
Wonderful.
It's a tough situation because, as you know, democracy ended the day corporations could affect the politicians' minds at a greater capacity than one individual.
Yes, and we can actually affect corporations right now, and I want to end with that note from me, is that we don't understand as a consumer that we actually have the power to take some of that power back. So I encourage my listeners now to, before you buy anything, even if it's the latest thing and the hottest thing, if there's choices, find the company that is doing socially responsible work. Find the company that is fueling small business and helping those who are traditionally need some investment to get up there. So as consumers, we're not helpless here.
No, we can vote
affect
with our
that.
dollars. You
Exactly.
vote with your dollars, and then you stop looking at yourself merely as a consumer. You look at yourself as a creator.
Yes.
They want you to see you as a consumer. You buy what you need, and then you take your dollars and you vote with those dollars.
Yes.
Go green as much as you can.
Yes.
Go organic as much as you can.
Right.
Fund the charities and the communities that speak with
Exactly.
your voice.
Exactly.
You see?
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't have to be, like you said earlier, you don't have to be the Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith or have a radio show or any of those things, but you can use what funds you have to say, I'm behind that.
Yes.
I believe in this and I want to be a part of it. It's your dollar. It's not about selling things or buying things. It's about, this is my vote, my energy, and I get to choose where I put that. I love that you helped me change my whole mindset around what money is.
Yes.
So I love money. I want a lot of money because I want the ability to take my vote through my money and put it in those places that absolutely make a
You have
positive difference in the
individuals
planet.
who fund their political views to the detriment of the average person.
Yeah.
Multi-billionaires who pass all kinds of laws so that they can make more money and pay less taxes.
Yeah.
And as a detriment to the vast amount of populace,
Yeah.
you know? And so we need to wake up and begin to fund what we believe in.
Yes. Yeah.
With as much
Absolutely.
vigor.
Absolutely. And I'm getting the signal that I'm way over.
Yeah. That's what happens.
That's what happens when we get in a room and start to talk. Doesn't matter where we are. But I love you. Thank you for coming on. You were actually going to be on the OWN network on October the 5th. You are doing Help Desk.
Yes.
So please tune into that. Go to agapelive.com. That's where you'll find everything, Dr. Michael, and everything that, I believe in. That's my spiritual community. So please go there, get involved. It doesn't have to be our organization. It can be any organization that is about love, that is about peace. I'll end with my daughters. My Sarah and Chloe say hi, by the way, Uncle
Thank
Michael.
you.
And Sarah says, how do we get to peace with war? So I'll leave with that. Thanks again. I am so grateful that you got to come on. And I'm going to end with 30 seconds of the balance bar. Actually, I'm not going to get a chance. So the giveaway, though, the Asian Oprah giveaway is a luncheon at the Anaheim White House restaurant, where I'll be speaking on October 12th. The restaurant owner, Bruno Serrato, has been my guest on my show. He's the CNN Hero of the Year for giving over 250,000 dinners away to motel kids in Anaheim. So go to my website, sign up and say food, and you'll get a free spot at that Asian Women Entrepreneurs Luncheon. This Friday, I'll be emceeing at the Beverly Hilton for the 2014 Asian Entrepreneurial Awards. Yes, remember, I won 2012, which is why they're calling me the Asian Oprah. And on October the 4th, my daughters and I will be...
They were calling Oprah the Black Marissa.
Love it. Thank you. I don't think she'll see it that way. But I'm going to be on CBS with my daughters on an Emmy-nominated show called Recipe Rehab. So go to your local listing October 4th for that. And that's it for this week. And next week, you're going to want to tune in. We're playing with Marvin Gaye. Again, Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa, and back by popular demand with guest co-host and friend Davey Ward, Tantric and Sexpert exclusively on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, E-I. And remember, it's all about balance.
Yes, it is possible. That's the bottom line. No matter what, no matter how many horrific and horrible things, we can find world peace. As you know, I always say peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. It's got to start here, folks. I agree 1,000% with everything Michael Bernard Beckwith, also known as my big brother, said. Invitation to join me every Sunday when he broadcasts live out of the Saban Theater. And if you'd like to listen to the whole interview, you can. Just free subscribe to my YouTube channel and get that particular show, along with a plethora of others, along with my red carpet playlist with interviews with Halle Berry and John Travolta and a lot of other name-dropping people. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this very, very special tribute on the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center in New York. Something that was not great. We wish it didn't happen, but the silver lining, the way it galvanized us as a nation, the way it brought attention to our front line responders, all the people who have been serving us, but maybe we didn't realize or recognize it until tragedy struck. So thank you to all who do service. And the same thing with the pandemic. You know, we've had frontline hospital, medical staff caring for us, and maybe we appreciate a little, but no thanks to the pandemic, we certainly appreciate them a lot. So let's carry that appreciation just on an everyday basis to everybody that we meet, so that we can truly come out of every tragedy, upping our human kind humanness, because that's what we are, humankind. Thank you for joining me again. See you next week. Have the best weekend ever. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Because we are America the beautiful.